Morning. My name is Josh Wallace, and we're doing our curriculum interview. And on the line with me, I have Miss Tracy Cross. She has been the director of secondary curriculum in Etowah County up until just a couple of weeks ago. And at this time, I'll let her introduce herself and tell her what the future holds for her.
I'm Tracy Cross. I'm the director of curriculum and school improvement for Etowah County until tomorrow, and then I retire. And then after that, I'm contracting with the Tallahassee City Schools to do basically the same thing with their curriculum.
Well, that's awesome. And I appreciate you being on here with me and trying to dive into curriculum a little bit more in depth. As a curriculum director, how did you integrate the horizontal and vertical alignment of all and provide the rigor and academic challenges that are needed for the students in Etowah County?
Right. Well, with vertical, and I can only speak for secondary, which is usually 7 through 12. We have meetings and we'll invite it's according to what subject. Lately, it's been math because we're going through a new math adoption. And this year for Etowah County, we are starting the implementation of 7th grade math, which will be the advanced and the regular, and then we're going to do geometry. So we've really been concentrating on that. And so we have the teachers come in, and let's just say math. And for vertical alignment, we have 2 math instructors, and they will, we've been trying to look at across this board how to implement this new course of study. And for the first few years, it's going to be a little bit of the old, a little bit of the new. And then we also do it in all the other subjects. The way we like to do vertical alignment, well, that's vertical alignment. Then we'll do horizontal. Let's say that we come in and we're going to just bring in all of our 7th grade math teachers. All right, so we'll bring them in. We'll do some content with them, but we also like to give them time to talk to each other because we have some big schools that you might have 2 7th grade math teachers, but we also have other schools that same 7th grade math teacher, they may teach 4 other math subjects. Sure. And so we call them our singles. And so we let them talk with the 7th grade math teachers and they can get ideas off of each other. And so we have a really good system. All of our teachers, they buy into it for the most part, and they like to come. They like to see each other, and they like to get ideas from each other. Okay. And then we also bring in outside speakers. We use AmSty quite a bit when it comes to math.
Okay.
For vertical and horizontal. And the schools do a lot of the same. They don't really do a lot of the horizontal, but they'll do some vertical. And then our feeder patterns. Sometimes we'll have our 8th grade math teachers meet with our 9th grade math teachers and try to make sure that, we have a seamless transition for students.
Do you feel like that provides some of that rigor, the academic rigor needed to make sure that it's being met across the entire board?
We do. 2 years ago, we created end-of-course exams for all of our high school courses. The teachers, we invited every school to send a teacher for every subject that they have. And they came in over a 2-week period. And really, then we came back for another week. And we created end-of-course exams for every high school course. And the reason I wanted to do that was because I want to make sure a child in school A is getting the same as school E. Sure. Every child deserves the same curriculum. Every child deserves to learn the same thing, even if they're in a school and they have 40 seniors graduating versus 200 seniors graduating.
Sure.
And so that was a big thing. It didn't go over at first very well. The teachers didn't like the idea of it, but
I remember going through it.
Yeah, it was basically, we were just testing the standards. Were the kids getting taught the standards? And
that's sure.
That is, I gave them the test, and somebody said, well, why'd you give them the test? And my thoughts were, well, at least if they teach the test, the kids get the standards. So, but for the most part, we have great teachers, and they will do what they have to do. And they want to have the rigor in there.
Absolutely.
And so, and I brag on our school all the time. We have 21 schools. And for the most part, every one of our schools, we have great teachers everywhere. So,
being in the same school system, I could not disagree with you at all. Even through what we're going through right now, our teachers have went over and beyond to provide that rigor and that academic success in the curriculum to make sure the curriculum is being presented and understood.
I say, you've heard me say it 100 times. The rigor and the curriculum starts with the principal. They
Absolutely.
have to be the leader in that school when it comes to academic achievement. And if they're
Hmm.
not, um, teachers generally follow their principal, assistant principal. Now we have some that have this intrinsic value. They want to do great and they do it. But if you have the principal there also being their cheerleader, then that's going to make it be even better.
Absolutely. Okay. What by speaking about leadership, what do you see as motivation for the teachers to make sure that the state standards are being met? And I
Yeah.
think you really just talked about it. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Motivation comes from that
Yeah.
leadership. Will you elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, well, this is, 3 through 8. When we get that state test back, they want to see. A lot of them are up at the schools wanting to see their scores. They want to see how their
Hmm.
kids did. That's huge. And in the high school, you've got the ACT, which is the same thing, and you've got the work keys. But it goes back to motivating the teachers. I think you could praise those teachers. Every school I
Absolutely.
go in, I'm praising these teachers because they're fabulous. I love going into the classrooms and seeing all the great things that happen in Etowah County. Because I mean, these young ones that are coming out of college, they are good, and
Hmm.
they can get to these kids like we couldn't because they understand how they
Hmm.
learn. So,
Absolutely.
I think that's a lot of it.
How do you involve teachers? I know a lot of times curriculum comes down from the State Department, central
Yeah.
office, principals, or leadership roles. How do we in Etowah County involve teachers in that decision making process?
Well, with the math course of study, you're right. I mean, people think we can just get any book we want. We can't. We get a list of books that have been adopted by the state. Now we'll go back and say you can go off on your own and adopt a textbook you want to use, but it has to go through your board of education, through the state board of education.
Yes.
There's a bunch of hoops to jump through. But we involve teachers when it comes to, like I said, the end of course exams. They created them, getting ready for this new implementation of the math course of study. There's been a lot of training this summer. It's virtual, which I hate because I like to go in person and train. And then started last March, we started a new plan for this district, a
Hmm.
new overreaching plan. And so I invited teachers from every school, uh, all types of teachers. They may be a reading teacher, they might be an EL teacher, a special ed teacher. We had PE teachers. We had people from everywhere coming in and saying, okay, as a district, where do we see ourselves going? What do we want to do? What's our future? And so, the more people you have involved, the greater buy-in you're going to have.
No, absolutely. Um, so, as a director, how do you assess the instruments that we're using, the instruction that we're using, and the material that's actually being used? How do you assess that? I'm sure you use the state course of study and standards, but
Right.
you just dive in and go, hey, look, we need to look at this to make sure that's covering everything. Or
Yeah, we were fortunate that our system purchased Scantron Analytics, and it can take a test, it can take a STAR test, it can take a Scantron Achievement test, it can take a state test, and it can drill down to the standards that are being missed across. Let's say we're looking at all seventh grade English scores.
mm,
It can dive down and say, okay, this, let's say standard 2E, we have missed it across the system. So as a system, we need some PD in this, no matter
sure.
what it might be. That's how a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, we started drilling in on math because
Hmm.
we were seeing across the system, we were missing standards everywhere. And a lot of it goes back to basic math.
Absolutely.
You know me, I don't know the math terminology, but basically multiplication, division, fractions. We were
Hmm.
missing that, and they were getting to high school and they couldn't do math. And so we went back to the middle schools and we said, we know that Go Math isn't teaching this like it used to be,
Right.
but we need to hit it. We need to make sure the kids can do it going forward.
See, and
So,
that's one of those diagnostic tools that there's so much information in that it's hard to get through unless you have time to do that. So as a teacher or even an administrator, it's hard to dive into all that to find exactly. So it's
it is.
good that the director is diving into those and breaking them down and then present, hey, this is what we're missing. This is what standard we need to work on. So I see that as very beneficial.
Well, and Anna and Jennifer, our math instructors, they have just taken it because they're math minds and they love it.
Absolutely.
And they break it down. And this coming year, we're going to leave it with the district level, the administrators, the instructional coaches, and we're not going to ask the teachers to do it because we feel like the teachers are going to be so overwhelmed
Oh,
that
sure.
we're just going to take that off their plate. And, we didn't have any state testing at the end of the year. We do have some ACT tests we can look at. We have some AP tests we can look at. And then all of our schools do universal screeners, elementary through 8th grade 3 times a year. So we can take that information and kind of figure out, okay, when we starting to write our plans for August, what do we need to look at? And with 21 schools, honestly, it could be all over the board.
Sure.
We can get a general idea, but every school is going to look different.
And I know, which it's been several years now since I've been in the classroom, if I had somebody that spent the time to break down the information for me, I would use it.
Yeah.
But my thought was, hey, I need to get information to these kids for learning to be going. So I didn't have time to sit down because I was always planning.
Right.
So if someone breaks down or uses these diagnostic tools to break it down for me and say, hey, look, this is what we're missing.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump on it as a teacher. And most of our teachers, I feel like, will. How do you feel that technology's changed curriculum? I know that's a vast question, but I know even today, as of today, technology is, we're looking at going virtual school. Yep. We've always had some aspect of it, but in today's time, it seems like it's really going to change the curriculum.
It's when we shut down in the spring, I told my counterpart, Tiffany, who's my elementary curriculum, I said, this shutdown, of course, it was crazy, but I feel like it has moved Alabama forward 10 or 20 years.
Absolutely.
And is forcing us to do things that we're not comfortable with. Like, I love technology, but it's still not comfortable. Sure. And what's coming down the pipe from the State Department in this Schoology, the content is going to be there. But I teach Access, you know that. When I teach Access, the content's there, the video's there, everything's there for the kids to look at. I go in and talk with the kids. I grade the papers. This is going to be a little different in that the content's there, but the teachers have to teach it virtually.
Right.
And so it's all going to be new. And I found out the other day that the content's not even going to be in there until August the 15th.
Holy smoke. I wasn't aware of that.
So it's going to be, I keep saying all hands on deck. It's going to be all hands on deck to learn this platform and then to get teachers comfortable doing it. And then figuring out what teachers are going to do it. Now, elementary is going to be different in that, they can teach a little bit of everything, but let's say we go to a West End high school.
Sure.
Where you have a math teacher who's teaching 4 different subjects and their classes are full. And then you've got 10 kids that have 4 different math subjects. Who's going to teach that when this teacher, you can't turn them loose from the classroom? So it's just going to be real interesting to see how it all happens.
And even, my opinion, it's not only, I feel like teachers have always wanted to evolve in that direction, or most of them. And it's even harder for me because I'm not technology minded. I'm hands-on minded. But to see some of the issues that we're having just with Wi-Fi service in the state of Alabama, all our students still don't have Wi-Fi. It may not even be that they can't afford it, which that's an issue. It's just not available.
Right.
In a lot of our areas in Etowah County and the state of Alabama. So I feel like it's been a catalyst, but I feel like it's opened up a Pandora's box. Hey, this is the issue. We can do this, but we've got to have help from outside services.
Well, and Tiffany and I have been talking how's this going to look? And we were on a webinar Friday and they're saying, let's say your child's in school, but they test positive for COVID and they've got to be out for 14, 21 days. Well, we don't want to throw them into this new online platform.
Absolutely.
Or even Odysseyware. So we're going to have to give them paper assignments because you don't take them out, you put them online and you put them back in school. So it's going to have to be just a lot of different things. And you're right. We have some areas in our system. I don't care how many devices you give them. There's no internet connectivity.
There's none.
There's no cell phone connectivity.
None. And in my job, I found that there's places that you cannot get it. Even if you go to the school and, we allowed them to sit outside the school for our Wi-Fi, it's still not very good. You know,
No,
the outside Wi-Fi, it's getting a lot better, but
right.
it's still not great. And if you're doing education and you're struggling just with the technology part of it, how can you really learn something? So I feel like that's something that we really have to look at.
Well, and we say, okay, we're going to park a bus here, or we've got the access points at the end of the schools, but we're talking for the most part, these are the students that don't have it. They don't have a way to get there to
No,
get it.
they do not.
And so, we've got to have some compassion and do what's right for these students.
So what do you feel like the greatest difficulties that you face in the position as a secondary curriculum director?
Not enough time in the day.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
I don't know. I love my job. I'm retiring just simply because it's time and I want to have some more time at home.
Sure.
But I love curriculum. It's like my baby. I
Mhm.
love AP. I love access. I love just getting in there with the teachers. I love going in teacher classrooms. I think it's probably my favorite thing to do. And greatest challenge would be some of the stuff that comes from the State Department.
Mhm.
It's hard to implement it. They don't really, some of them there, I hope there's nobody from the State Department listening to this, but some of them there have never been in the jobs that they're over.
Sure.
And that makes it difficult.
Makes it very difficult.
And some of them have never been an administrator in a
Mhm.
school. And until you've been an administrator in a school, you don't really realize what's going on.
Absolutely.
What's going on in that office. We're not all up there filing our fingernails and eating bonbons.
Sure.
So, that's the hardest thing, the stuff that comes from the state, and I'm sure a lot of that comes from the federal, but
Mhm.
that would be my hardest thing.
So do you feel like that's some of the factors that interfere with the goals that we have on the district level? Sometimes that even actually interferes with what's being passed down. We're trying to
Yes.
present that information the way that we feel like it needs to be presented and to meet those guidelines,
Yeah.
but it interferes with actually reaching some of those goals
Yeah.
of
Well,
teaching those students what they
they
need to know.
they try to cookie cutter all the districts, and everybody's not just like in our district. We're not all the same.
No, every school's different. I mean, it
Yes,
is
it is.
vast. The education at Southside is going to look different than West End or Gaston or even Sardis, who, Southside and Sardis are relatively close to the same size.
They
But
are.
there's a different population of students in
Mhm.
every school.
It
And
is.
I get to see that because I see students from all of them.
You do.
So,
You
and
kind of it kind of opens your eyes up, doesn't it?
it really has. It really has. It's been very interesting, challenging, but you learn a lot when you're
You
seeing
do.
all avenues.
I think you become more compassionate.
There's no question. I feel like you become more compassionate and you become more in tune with what students need at different places.
I agree. I
So,
agree.
well, I don't have anything else. I greatly appreciate your time.
Well,
This is for our IL 650 curriculum theory class. So, Miss Tracy Cross, I greatly appreciate everything you've done for me today.
anytime. Talk to you later.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye.
Uh-huh.